Good morning on this frigid Saturday morning in New York City, whether you're watching it now or tuning in later. I just had to, I'm doing this a few days ahead of time. I am starting a new year-long series. Last year I did Joy Intelligence, really explored the idea and the magic of joy intelligence, the power of joy intelligence for the wellness universe all year. And now I'm going to revisit something that I've taught about so many times. I've led so many rituals around this, about seasonal celebrations from around the world. And based on the earth-centered wheel of the year, we are coming up to what's considered in some traditions, in some earth-centered, in a lot of earth-centered traditions and around the world too, to a new year. Yes, there are many new years. You can say that the birth of the sun on the winter solstice is one. That obviously New Year in the Roman calendar on January 1st. But this is what we know today as Groundhogs Day. Actually has the most beautiful spiritual history. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it and how you can acknowledge it and really create some magic to make it real, to embody it in your life. So you may have noticed looking around, and I was thinking about this last night, where at 5:30 I looked out. I have a western view looking over the Hudson River, and there was still a glimmer of the sun as it was setting. I thought, that's it. That's what this ancient fire festival in the Celtic lands and other countries, and I'll tell you about them. This was a time of new possibilities and potential, a time when the seeds that that might have been planted in the fall, for tulips and the things that come up early, aren't sprouting yet. It's still a little early. It's still in the northern hemisphere anyway. They're not quite ready, but they're literally vibrating under the earth. There's a little bit more sun. There's just a difference in the light at this moment. So we know Groundhog's Day to be February 2nd. It was celebrated as Imbolc by the Celts, and Imbolc actually means in the womb. And it was a time when lambs and other mammals were gestating, where their spring babies aren't coming yet, but they were also lactating. And another name for it was oise milk, which is ewe's milk, ewe as in female sheep. So this was, how we got to Groundhog's Day from all of that is because of this slow, very slow return of the sun. This moment, this Imbolc moment, now known as Groundhog's Day, lays halfway between the winter solstice and the spring equinox in the wheel of the year. And there are four of these, what are called cross-quarter days, that fall 6 weeks after an equinox or solstice, and or 6 weeks before or after an equinox. Anyway, in between the solstices and the equinoxes. And this one was meant to be a time, and I'll share with you some of the traditions from around the world. It's in the animal world. It's the energy of quickening, which is when these growing beings inside animals that had been hibernating, on whether and we talk about, it's kind of an old-fashioned word, but even babies quicken is when you feel the first flutter of life. And so that's happening with the earth as Mother Earth is just, we're not talking in big ways. We're not talking flowers sprouting yet. But it really is very much about just this quickening. And it was also known in the Celtic lands as the Feast of Brigit. She was a major triple goddess who's still celebrated in goddess circles all around. And she was known by a bunch of different names. Brede in Scotland, or Bride, Brigantia in England, and her nickname was Biddy. Goes to show you how the patriarchy has flipped so many things on its head. You're an old biddy was actually a term of respect, because what kids would do at this time is they would go from door to door asking for alms for old Biddy. Alms, ALMS, which are, again, another old-fashioned word, but offerings to honor, to ensure good fortune for the harvest and for the planting that would come in the spring. Her sacred flame, Saint Brigid, well, see, I just flipped ahead. Brigit, the goddess, her flame was kept burning in Kildara in Ireland and now apparently it went out again, but it's been burning until as late as 2050, decades, centuries ago, and is now apparently been rekindled. A place I would love to visit someday. And it was at some point it was tended. This flame was tended by 9 priestesses, 18 priestesses, depending on what you're reading. It is a fire festival, and as many of these cross-quarter days are, it's a time to honor what fire symbolizes. And in fact, Brigid was the goddess of creativity, of smithcraft, honing metal over, not going to find too many ironsmiths around, but making metal things, poetry, healing, super powerful. Maiden, Mother, Crone. That's the three faces. There's 3 original faces of the divine feminine. That's a whole other story because I insert another one in between, archetypally in between Mother and Crone as Amazon Queen. As I said, another story. What else do I want to tell you about? So it was now St. Bridget's. I referred to her as St. Bridget's a minute ago. The Christian Church, patriarchal Christian Church, saw how powerful she was and actually kind of co-opted her and renamed her. It wasn't Feast of Brigid, the goddess, but she became a saint. She became Saint Brigid in Ireland. And it was the Christian celebration that coincided with Imbolc, with Feast of Brigid, with St. Brigid's Day, with eventually Groundhog's Day, was Candelmas, which was the time 40 days after, so the Christian tradition says, after the birth of Jesus, where a woman was considered pure after childbirth and could then return to the world. For women, if you had a baby girl, you had to wait 80 days for that purification. A little strange. So Candlemas, that was the origin of that. Now, omens were sought, and this is where the groundhog peeking out from his place was sought for the new growing season. Especially animals were said to come out of hibernation and to provide helpful predictions. So we'll see on Monday, on February 2nd, when the actual, I'm getting you ready for this a couple days before, you'll see, we'll find out what Puxagatawny Phil did, whether he emerged from his hibernation or not. Now, in Rome, it was known as Juna Ferbruta. Fires were lit and candles burned in her honor and to support Ceres, who at that point, Demeter Ceres, is still in the underworld searching for her daughter, which is Persephone Kore. A very deep, powerful archetypal myth. The Aztecs, and actually this was also done in China, which is so interesting. It's sort of like, 100th monkey thing where all over the world they're celebrating in similar ways. The Aztecs extinguished all of their fires and lived in darkness for, to just reflect on where they are. And then they relit them to kind of coax back the sun as it continued to return. In the Chinese festival of Li Chun also welcomed the onset of spring in that way, where they would, put out all the candles and then bring them back. What's another? Oh, and the Iroquois Nation. I love this one. The False Face Society would go to every house and extinguish the fires and then blow the ashes over the family to purify them. That's another key energy of of Groundhog's Day, Imbolc, Feast of Brigid, before they relit the fires. So lots of fun, interesting perspective into what really grounds, what really creates the foundation for this very powerful ancient festival. So if you would like to take part in that tiny little ritual that you can do on Imbolc, what you first want to do, because remember, I gotta find my matches, there they are. What you first want to do is surround yourself with candles. I've got one going up there, I've got a couple going around my office. I'm going to light another one. And in my very first women's circles 30 years ago, my mentor, Susan Mary Heller, would always say, "Blessed be thou creature of fire." Very witchy, isn't it? And what I'm lighting, I don't know if you can see it, it's one of my, I did two this year, of my candle magic candles that I did to set my intentions for the new year. Ask me about that, because that's a very cool way to set your intentions. I did one with my grand girls and one in my new moon circle last month. And then just have a little bowl. This seemed particularly with little slips of paper. This bowl is actually from a women's festival, a goddess festival, at least probably, I don't know, 10, maybe 15 years ago. And it's made from cinnamon and water. And so clay, creativity, I thought that felt very Brigidy. And so have some slips of paper, and then take a moment and think about what it is that you want to let go of, to release. What do you want to sweep away? My UU church, my Unitarian church here in New York City, the Fourth Universalist Society, for many years, on and off, we've done a purification, an Imbolc, Feast of Brigit, Groundhogs Day, purification, where people would write on slips of paper what they want to release. They'd throw them into the center aisle, and then we'd we'd sweep them up and we'd put them in a big cauldron and we'd burn them. So you can do that when you create your own little ritual. You can do it whenever you want, but if you want to do it right on Imbolc on February 2nd, and then you put them outside of your circle after you've written what it is that you want to do, and then be sure to burn them or do something with them, flush them down the toilet after you talk about what you want to release. And this is where the prophecy piece comes in. Now, Carl Jung, the famous psychologist Carl Jung, believed, he was a big proponent of divination, of tarot cards, of reading tea leaves, because he believed that the answer to all of our questions, this is part of his concept of synchronicity, the answer to all of his questions could be found in the world around us. And so in any moment, if you've got a question, and there's some wonderful books, I have to remember to put something about that in the YouTube description. There's some wonderful books about how you can look at omens, like Puxakatani Phil coming out, and other things that we use divination for. So I have many different things. I pull a tarot card every day. I pull one of my nature mandala cards every day. I do lots of different things just to give me something to chew on and to reflect on for the day or the month, or a card for the year too. So I've already shuffled. These are self-care cards from Cheryl Richardson, wonderful, powerful author and coach. And what I do is I shuffle them, and then I kind of flip through them, and I'm going to pull right now decisions. That's interesting. Honor your top priorities. If it's not an absolute yes, then it's a no. I haven't pulled one of these in a while, so that's interesting. I'm going to have to keep that out and see how decisions and an act of self, these are self-care cards, so being sure that as I'm taking care of myself, I'm putting myself at the center and making decisions that really honor who I am. So just a little example of the kind of little tiny ritual you can do to honor this ancient holy day. And then our next seasonal celebration will be in conjunction with the spring equinox on March 20th. So I'll do another one of these then. But in the meantime, be on the lookout, hear what they tell us about Groundhogs Day, but then do your own. Go deeper and do your own releasing, and then opening up to the possibilities, the potential, purifying yourself. Remember, this is a festival of purification. by getting rid of what you want to get rid of at this initiation time. For many people, this was considered the new year. And then, some kind of divination, even if it's just sitting and asking your higher self, asking your favorite goddess, what do I need to step into right now? What's the most important thing I need to remember right now? Whatever that looks like for you. So have fun with it. I'm going to have fun with this because I love doing this kind of magical but still very grounded, very archetypal work, and looking forward to creating this all of these celebrations and reviewing these celebrations and these rituals over the course of the next year. Have a wonderful Feast of Brigit and Groundhogs Day, and we'll connect. Ask me if you have questions.